African slaves brought their traditional dances to America, incorporating elements like polyrhythms, call and response patterns, and intricate body movements, which became the foundation for Black American dance.
Before enslavement, Africans danced for many special occasions, such as births, or marriages, or as part of their daily activities. Dance affirmed life and the outlook of the future. And after the Middle Passage, Africans in the Americas sang and danced while working as slaves.
As they converted to the religions of white Europeans and indigenous people, they incorporated these traditions into their cultures.
Early dance variations can be traced back to the slave ships. And during the long journey to this side of the world, Africans were forced to dance on deck for exercise. Many took advantages of this to bond and communicate with their shipmates by dancing steps remembered from their past in Africa.
The limbo, for example, was a dance that arose out of the limited space in the slave ships. And as life continued in the Americas, enslaved people continued to modify and recreate ancestral memories through dances, religious ceremonies, and other musical forms that use cultural traditions from Africa.
Welcome back to our channel. I'm Hass.
I'm Cece.
Today we got a hot topic for you. The Slave Act of 1740 prohibited slaves from playing African drums or performing African dances. This resulted in African instruments being outlawed in the U.S. colonies. So early stepping styles were created as a means to hold on to one of our last ancestral memories.
Though white American slave owners barred Africans from most forms of dancing, Africans found ways of getting around these prohibitions. For example, since lifting the feet was considered dancing,
Wow.
Many dances included foot shuffling and hip and torso movement.
One such dance was the ring shout. The ring shout is a spiritual expression in dance. It has its origins in a dance form indigenous to much of Central and West Africa, in which the dancers move in a counterclockwise circle.
The ring shout, as practiced by slaves, became a religious activity as they intertwined elements of Christianity in with African elements, and the participants moved in a circle, providing rhythm by clapping their hands and patting their feet.
One individual would set the tempo by singing, and his lines would be answered in a call in and response fashion. In some cases, another individual rhythmically beat the floor, which was usually wooden, with a broomstick or other pieces of wood.
Now, the Buzzard Lope was first noted in Georgia in the 1880s. It's an adaptation of a similar West African dance where dancers stretch out their arms like birds of prey and do a kind of shuffle step and a little hop around a piece of cloth on the ground, which represents the carrion.
People on the sidelines clap and pat their thighs. It was a way for many enslaved people to cope with the trauma of the psychological torture of whites who would leave dead slaves in plain view for other enslaved people to see as the bodies decayed and were consumed by turkey buzzards.
The Juba Dance was originally brought by enslaved peoples from the Congo to Charleston, South Carolina. It became an African-American plantation dance that was performed by slaves during their gatherings that involved stomping, as well as slapping and patting the arms, legs, chest, and cheeks.
It would be used to keep time for other dances during a walk around when no rhythm instruments were allowed due to fear of secret codes hidden in the drumming. The sounds of their stomping reproduced the rhythms which were used in the same manner as Yoruba and Haitian talking drums to communicate and relay information. The dance was performed in Dutch Guiana, the Caribbean, and the southern United States.
Call up the ancestors on that street. And when you call up the ancestors, what do they tell you? What do you recall?
The Juba Dance, also known as the Patent Juba, was also called the Hambone.
That's right.
Pretty much like.
Later, in the mid-19th century, music and lyrics were added, and there were public performances of the dance. Its popularization may have indirectly influenced the development of modern tap dance.
Oh.
The most famous Juba dancer was William Henry Lane, or Master Juba. Master Juba. It sounds like a Star Wars name. One of the first black performers he was in the United States.
Right.
Talking like Yoda over here. One of the first black performers in the United States he was.
So the next dance that we're going to discuss is called the Calenda, which has a variety of spellings, as it is sometimes spelled with a C and sometimes spelled with a K.
Right.
Now, it is a martial art style folk war dance that arose in the 1720s on Caribbean plantations. It was brought to the Caribbean by Africans in the transatlantic slave trade, of course, and is based on native African combat dances.
This dance form found its way to the U.S. plantations when Afro-Caribbean slaves were brought to Louisiana. Its performance requires dancers to engage in mock combat with their sticks in the middle of a circle to the accompaniment of drumming and singing.
Okay. The fighter uses a pair of sticks to attack as well as to defend during a duel. And they are led by a lead singer whose duty it is either to encourage or deride the dancers. And then the singer is edged on by a chorus of women.
Get him, get him, get him.
Probably.
They say it in a deep voice. Get him with that stick, get him.
I don't know all of that, but...
But, you know, there are several more early plantation dances. But the cakewalk was by far the most popular. As early as the 1860s, black slaves recounted how they would promenade around imitating and parodying the dance forms they saw their owners doing.
Yeah, and these were called cakewalks because the couple deemed the best dancers were awarded a cake.
Right.
Which led to the phrase taking the cake or, winning the prize. And these cakes were sometimes provided by white masters themselves to encourage these performances, probably because they missed the subtle critique of the dance. And skilled performers were expected to make even harder moves look effortless and easy. Hence the contemporary usage of the term cakewalk.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That word was defined or derived from black folks making fun of white folks.
Yeah.
Hilarious. But after the Civil War, plantation dances were popularized through minstrel shows. The actors in these shows were usually white men who wore blackface while enacting racial stereotypes for the purposes of comic relief, often depicting black people as dim-witted, lazy, buffoonish, cowardly, superstitious, happy-go-lucky, or hypersexual.
However, by the 1800s, companies began to include African American entertainers in these minstrel shows, who, like their white counterparts, often wore black makeup over their own skin to appear even darker.
This opened the door for the Creole show to debut in 1891. It was a revue staged on Broadway. It featured an all-black cast that showcased for the first time African Americans in a dignified way.
Right. And the Creole show was also where the cakewalk was first introduced to mainstream American society, leading to its popularity among white audiences. So it became the first American dance created by blacks to become popular with whites.
Now, you know what's funny that I've got to ask about that is the fact that the cakewalk was something done in the 1700s, like the 1720, and now in 1820 or something like that. 1891. They're starting to do this cakewalk during the Creole show, and it's still popular. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow. Talk about something staying relevant. That's over a century.
Well, black people at that time, we didn't have much of a history outside of slavery.
Right.
So, and remember slavery entered in 1865. This Creole show started in 1891. So that's only like less than 30 years to have created enough life experiences outside of the plantation.
Okay,
so I believe that's probably why that was carried on into the minstrel shows.
Did you say less than 30 years?
Yeah.
Like 3 decades worth of
right, less than 30 years, yeah.
worth of some stuff staying popular for it to still bring out crowds of people.
Well, also, like I said, this is a minstrel show, and so they had, most of
they're doing dances that their slaves would have been doing, or they experienced with the black population.
At these shows, in order for them to make money, they had to cater to white audiences. So I think it speaks more to what the white audience wanted versus what the black people maybe wanted to do artistically. That's what I think.
Well, going back to the Creole show, it inspired other similar shows, which offered opportunities to many black entertainers. And it gave birth to a series of all black shows and introduced a new form of music, the ragtime.
Yeah. And this is where other black influenced dance trends such as the Charleston followed.
The Charleston originated in the 1920s and is characterized by its fast-paced arm swings, leg kicks, twirls, and toe tapping. It was popularized by dancers like Josephine Baker, who used the dance to challenge racial stereotypes and push boundaries.
Right. And then there was the Black Bottom, which was another dance popularized by these early black variety shows. It first came on notice around 1907 in the South, and it is an aesthetically African dance that combines synchronized rhythms, bent knees, and crouched torsos and rhythmic pelvic and hip movements to create this dance. It soon became a national craze around 1926 when it was shown in a Broadway musical.
And around 1910, the Texas Tommy emerged.
Texas Tommy.
This dance first appeared in a black San Francisco neighborhood called the Barbary Coast. The dance is an 8-count partner dance where the basic steps are followed by a breakaway, an open position that allows for acrobatics, antics, improvisations, and of course, showing off. Texas Tommy was one of the first rag dances to emerge in mainstream America.
And so now we're talking about the Lindy Hop, which emerged in the 1930s, and it is a partner dance that fuses jazz, tap, and breakaway dance styles. It's characterized by fast-paced, high-energy steps, and it was born in the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem, where black dancers would gather to dance the night away.
The Savoy was huge, taking up the whole block at 141st Street and Lenox Avenue. The Lindy flourished there, partly because it was one of the few racially integrated ballrooms where whites and blacks could dance, be inspired, and share dance moves.
Now, We are led to two dances that are sort of like a set of fraternity twins, in that both emerged around the same time, and they share the same DNA, but are also distinctly different. And so we're talking about the Big Apple and the Carolina Shag.
In the 1930s, white students from the University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina, asked for admission to an African-American dance hall called the Big Apple Club. But given the Southern Jim Crow laws forbidding black and white public socializing, the club promoter could not allow it.
However, the Big Apple Club, which was formerly a synagogue, had a balcony where the Jewish women used to sit during services. And soon, the club's balcony became a popular spot for local white teenagers and college students to go and watch the dancing.
These students coined the type of dancing the blacks were doing as the Big Apple. Dancers would be in a large circle, and a dancer would call out steps.
Okay. And so the Big Apple dance basically resembles the ring and shout dance, where dancers stood and moved counterclockwise in a circle. But instead of taking place on a plantation for spiritual praise, it was done in a club.
So 200 years later, once again, this dance still had its hooks in the culture. And not only that, but white folks thought it was cool.
Yeah, and so they thought it was so cool that eventually these white students started emulating the black dancers at the Big Apple Club and took these dance styles back to their colleges and called their dance the Little Apple.
The dance gained great popularity as students gathered for summer break over the summers of 1937, and the Little Apple soon evolved into the Carolina Shag.
Right.
Did you know that?
I now.
We know that now, don't we?
We know that now. And so the Carolina Shag is a partner dance that incorporated the dance steps learned at the Big Apple Club with a music style that has a strong nostalgic association with a particular type of doo-wop. The sound is known as basically beach music.
Another popular dance trend of that time was the Jitterbug.
Or jitterbugging.
Jitterbugging, as they called it. It was a combination of the Carolina Shag and the Lindy Hop.
And the Jitterbug dance is very energetic and involves very sharp jerking movements with partners switching between face-to-face dance and side-by-side hold.
It also incorporates elements of the Charleston and the Texas Tommy. The Jitterbug dance is attributed to Cab Calloway's in his song called The Jitterbug, produced in 1934, and the film Jitterbug Party, both of which were responsible for popularizing the word.
Wow, he had a song and a movie.
Song and a movie.
Wow, interesting. And then we're led to the twist, which became a worldwide dance craze in the early 1960s. It was usually done with a partner, but without any type of touching, that is. And it was characterized by swiveling the hips, as we see in many West African dances. Musician
Hank Ballard first made the dance popular. Now, Hank Ballard was, born 1927, died 2003. Mm-hmm. And he was an R&B singer who was part of the group called the Midnighters.
Okay.
Ballard wrote and recorded the twist. I bet y'all didn't know that. And after seeing some people twisting their hips while dancing, he was able to come up with this cool dance.
Okay.
And the twist was actually first released on the B-side of Ballard's single, Teardrops on Your Letter.
However, Hank Ballard and his Midnighters unfortunately had a reputation for being a risque band, and many of their songs featured explicit lyrics. So it was not until Chubby Checker's version of the twist that it actually gained national notoriety.
The song hit #1 on Billboard's Hot 100 chart, and Chubby Checker was featured on American Bandstand singing the song.
And that was a big deal back then.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
And in total, the twist spent 25 weeks on the Billboard's top 10.
Wow. Now, the dance was so popular that it inspired new dances such as the mashed potato, the swim, and the funky chicken.
Black American dance is a story of cultural expression and resilience, and a reflection of our collective history. It's a testament to our ability to create, innovate, and thrive in the face of adversity. It has been a powerful form of protest from the day of enslavement to the present day.
So, speaking of protest, one powerful moment that showcases the significance of Black American dance is the 1963 March on Washington, where dance was used as a form of protest and resistance. So dancers like Alvin Ailey and Tally Beatty used their bodies to express the struggles and hopes of Black Americans and to challenge the status quo.
Dance has been one of the ways we could be free, even for only a moment.
That is true.
A way in which we could own our bodies with a few stolen moments in self-agency and embrace our joy.
Absolutely. So guys, with that, that's beautiful. I'm going to end on that note. So thanks for joining us on this journey through the evolution of Black American dance. Of course, there was many other early forms of dance that we did not cover. So if you have a favorite dance style or memory, please share it with us in the comments below. And be sure to check out our upcoming video on the dance where we cover the 1970s up through present day.
Peace.